Imagine the Mississippi, riding the Mississippi, all those wonderful Mark Twain thoughts. That's, it's part of our true nature in America, is travel and using the canal systems to do it. So in our nation, in every nation, there is a process in which we help to create a better world, a better situation, a better organized reality. So we start off with the fact that we don't have boats. We don't have transportation. We're walking on foot, and we barely got the horse and a dog and a few other animals that have been domesticated that allows us to do things a little easier. And so we've bred together horses and donkeys, and we got mules, and they're smart. They're really smart. They cannot be overworked. Because when right relationship evolves, certain relationships come together. In that case, a mule made manifest. And a mule is a lot smarter than a horse. A mule is a lot smarter than a donkey. The mule has a seventh ray. And it is to work, but under its own choice. As stubborn as a mule. It will not work longer than 6 hours in a day or less. You have to stop and take it home. It doesn't like to just sit out someplace in a strange place. It has a home, it has a reason for living, and it has to be treated with respect. And if you don't, you lose your friend. Because it's chosen by that horse. And that's a freedom, that's an aspect. Because when it comes into play, on the nature realm, the automatic process of it going up like that and getting that third ray and setting it into a clock, okay, this will kill you, stop it, Where the other one, you can ride a horse to death. You can ride a horse to death. It will ride as long as you will push it. And we do that. We race them. We did the Pony Express and killed horses. Left them for dead. And simply because horses will do that. But as time goes on, we kind of find out that there are certain animals that won't, and this particular animal doesn't. So there is a ray energy that's coming into the earth, and action and activity helps to establish those rays too. In every state, if you were to put in a way, here we don't have cars, we don't have trains, so we have to be intelligent. We have to use that seventh ray that we're given. We somehow got on a boat and went all the way to America, So that was the seventh ray. That was a lot of hard work. A lot of people trained to build that boat, to get that boat to a specific destination and not get lost or killed, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Once it got started, we filled this place up. We built large ships, cruise ships, and everything just to keep migrating people over here because it was the seventh ray, third ray thing to do. It was a governing relationship to Earth, because the Earth has the rays of Jesus Christ. The Earth has 7 continents, has 7 rays, has the rays of Jesus Christ, and nothing overthrows it. So if you're in a democratic state, which means that you're under the influence of the first initiation, and if you're under that influence and you make a choice, and you make a choice because you are a first degree initiate, and you make that choice in a grounded way that gives you information and abilities to become highly, directed toward invention, development, ideas that work. So in America, we took from many ideas in other countries, which is the process of making canals. So instead of freeways and highways and all those things, we make canals. In 1825 and 1822, we began the process, and nothing would get started before that. Everybody was planning on it. 1700s, the making of the United States, the making of canals. It was a big idea. But it couldn't really go forth because there was the Civil War and there were all these other things that kept us from focusing upon infrastructure. The creation of infrastructure. So in the creation of infrastructure, when you're a seventh ray energy, it comes in and it tells you, communicates with you that If you were to make canals and you were to make the boats like barges and make them in a way in which they can go up different locks that allows it to go from higher realms to higher realms and further out into the nation of the United States, which is thousands of miles. But these canals do not exist by nature. They exist in the creation of infrastructure. Infrastructure. And infrastructure is the first initiation. That's when money is made manifest into economy. And it does that under a structure. Yeah? And it does that so that everybody gets economy. Everybody. So what happens, when you build these waterways and everything, it immediately makes it possible for us to make products, grow corn, grow things, get coal, all the things that we're doing, that we're mass producing to make manifest. And every time we made a canal and got it just so far, a city was developed. Yeah. So on the corner of every major canal was a city. New Jersey, Philadelphia, New York, Florida, all the way, Tennessee, Ohio. All those places got canals, and it looked like this. These are the canals, the ones that we built back in 1822 to about 1885. And then we got back into war. Yeah. And ever since we were in war, which is till now, because all our money goes to war, all our money goes to all that kind of stuff. So we haven't really developed the canals that we should be developing throughout the United States. We put it all into a new kind of infrastructure, which is freeways, highways, railways, everything but canals. And when you do that, you take away the potential. This is where water comes from. Water. This is a canal that allows water to flow and move from one country, one state to another. And that's just like a country. And if we do this, you create a liberated economy. An enormous economy. Mississippi was a major economy. New York became a major economy. All the way up Philadelphia became a major economy. Pittsburgh became a major economy. All of it became major economies because we had these barges that were moving up and down these waterways, and it didn't cost us hardly anything. Many of the barges were pulled by mules. They didn't really have motors. We didn't have motors by that time. So we had rope, and we had mules. And the canals were only about 25 to 30 feet wide. So you went along one side of the canal, and you throw your ropes out, and they're held by two mules. And they pull you along at 5 miles an hour. Doesn't matter how big your boat is. It's pulled. And you make it through all these different locations. And you're able to create an economy. And you're able to create a society of people who can get economy from the infrastructure built into the system, just by doing the right thing. So if you go to other countries, you go to the Netherlands, you'll find some towns, some groups of areas that have really no roads, no real cars. All they have is canals all over the place, like in Venice, and like in Italy, even in England. There's canals all over England. And you can ride these boats and live on these boats all over fricking England if you were smart. And there's some pretty smart people out there, because they are filled up with people who are having a great life, sitting on their boat going 5 miles an hour downstream. And there's nothing. You're not in a city. And other places in the Netherlands, you have your boats, and your boats are your car. You step out of your house and you jump into your boat and you head down the road or canal, and you take a left, then a right, and then a left, and these are all different canals, and they go around your block. They go around your house. They go around all the farm fields. So you stop off the farm field and you feed hay to your cow directly from your boat. Yeah, rather than a truck or rather than some other thing. Yeah, this is normal, but it's not normal, on a big scale. But it remained normal as life in some places. Yeah, because it was stupid to go outside that realm when everything is so fine and dandy, just perfect. Yeah, so we have an enormous amount of these things in America too, and we don't use them. Yeah. We have very few people who consider everybody's thinking, well, let's get a van, let's get a tiny house, let's get all these different things. And all of that you should do. Yeah. But I'm just adding on to it because we got billions of people. Yeah. We got 350 million people that need a home. So here we are in America and we have all these opportunities, but we don't really know about them. Yeah. We could change everything in the United States if we practice vacationing within the United States. Yeah, we can fix everything if we practice, using these canals and spend a month on a boat. And I'm telling you, you're only going to pay maybe $15 a night when you park on the harbor side. When you're going down on this canal, there's parking places, which is in a town, by a park or something, and literally has a plug-in for your electricity, a place for your hose. You fill your water up, you do your electricity, and you dump your toilet. All for about $4 or $5. Yeah. So your cost of living is really nothing, but you're living in a wonderful situation. Take a look at this. This is just a standard boat.
This leads you down to the boating area where you can load all your personal items and meet your guide, who will then take you through kind of the boat and what to expect. Once you get on your boat, you can do a
These
quick
are called
tour
long
in our
boats.
boat here.
They're
You can,
thin and long.
Get a chance to see what's inside.
And they're
Basically,
just like a camper.
Master 42, which was the 2 bedrooms and then 2 bathrooms, and then it also had a dinette that folded into a bed as well. The interior height has to be a little under 6, maybe 6'5" feet. I'm 6'3", and I was able to walk through without hitting my head or anything like that. So it's a little tight, but it's still manageable if you're under 6'4", 6'5". The bathrooms are pretty spacious as well, and then this is the kitchen area, stove, and then the oven, and then down below. There's 2 thrusters that are in the front, and they're managed by a button on top, and those will keep you from drifting left or right if you need them. The rudder itself is pretty stiff, I noticed, so you've got to have a little bit of strength to push it, but it's not too hard. This is us coming into the dock, and the guide just basically showed us everything we needed to do to get situated. And basically the idea is just to get in and get close to the wall, and then grab those 2 ropes so that you're not moving around a lot once inside, especially if there's a lot of traffic inside. But once the lock is opened up, then you're free to go, and you take your guide back, drop them off, and then you're off cruising. And what I noticed is it's just a really relaxing cruise. There's not a lot going on. There's not a lot of traffic, water traffic. You see some people biking on the trails on the side. But for the most part, you're just relaxing and just enjoying the ride.
Yeah. And it's cheap. Yeah, it's really cheap. And it kind of helps you learn, how vacation life, things like this, take a month off and go to a place like this rather than Disneyland or New York or, San Francisco, and go to Chinatown and drive yourself crazy and buy a bunch of shit. Where in this case, you're literally taking it easy, and you're learning. Yeah. Yeah. And this, you could do the same. There's places, let me show you, like here in California. See that red line? That red line goes up to San Joaquin River, goes into Sacramento, and then these other green lines that go up to another red line. All of that is canals. Yeah. So even in California, at 4 miles an hour, That takes quite a long time to get from the bottom of here to the top up here. Yeah, and it's fantastic. This is all wonderful views and everything. It takes you through and around locations, and you could stop in cities, you can stop in towns, you can stop in near the forest line and everything. It's really quite amazing. And then this is Oregon County, Jackson County, Oregon. And you can see all these little red lines, the thin red lines, are all canals. And that's a lot of canals. Yeah. So, and this is beautiful. Oregon is Willamette and everything. It's beautiful. Yeah. So you can rent something, or you can change your lifestyle. Yeah. And live here for about 3 or 4 years. Enjoy it, and then sell your boat and go on and live in a camper and go on and live in this and live in that and go from place to place and enjoy yourself. I mean, these days, you can do most of your work on the internet, so the process of where you live, how you live, and your limitations are dramatically changed, but you need to know about these kind of things. Even if you travel to Europe, even if you travel to any place in the world, be aware of the canals, the rivers, and travel those canals and rivers, yeah? And even you can go to China, largest canals you can imagine. Most beautiful way to get around. Taiwan, China, Singapore, canals everywhere. But no one thinks about going on canals, yeah? But they're the best way to travel, and they're very, very inexpensive. And then the other way is rent yourself a motorhome and travel the same place, whether it be Europe or Finland or Taiwan or China, any of those locations. You can rent really great motorhomes for a little more than you would rent a car. Yeah. And you're just chucking along. You got your bed with you, you got your kitchen with you, and you are traveling. And you're not stuck having to do all this expense process of getting out, living near a bunch of expensive places, going out to dinner, doing all the things that drives you into that kind of life. Where instead, if you choose how you're going to travel, then you'd be amazed as how much you get out of it. So the other thing is, in order for the process of the 7 rays to really, it's about the world. It's about healing the nations. Yeah. So it's what I'm speaking of is for you to witness, that here I'm talking about this. Well, probably within the next couple of weeks, you'll see it on the news. And you'll see other things pop up and say, wow, the infrastructure design and interest that is coming out under Biden's process includes canals. Do we really need canals? Well, I just told you everything about why we need canals. Yeah, they're necessary in the initiations of humanity, to save humanity, to do our transportation dramatically more on a canal than on highways. Even though it's slow, it doesn't cost hardly anything. New ships that are being done are all electric, solar generated hybrids, whether they're trains or they're going to be ships. Yeah, so take a canal, do 4 miles an hour, and it'd probably be, if you're using gas, it's probably about a half a gallon for about 5 hours. Half a gallon, 5 hours. Yeah, and the amount that you're going to get done, the canals will take you where you want to go. You just take the detour, and you get to that location, and your dumping point, the place in which they pick everything up, is right on the dock. Yeah, everything's set up in that way. That's the way canals are designed, for the infrastructure of industry and travel. It's an infrastructure scenario, but we don't really know. We want to take advantage of. Well, let's get monorails and let's get trucks and let's get all this stuff. All great, but we have to include the canals. Yeah, why? Well, imagine today. Here we are. We're without water here on the west side, and we got no way of getting it other than the Colorado River, which is left over from what doesn't go into the canals. It goes over the mountains and onto the left side, So we get what we get, we get what we get, and it's not enough. It's only going in off that one side. That hits LA, and then everything in the ground is being sucked up So most of what we have in California and along the Arizona area and all those, we don't have canals that allow that infrastructure of the heavy rain that takes place on the East Coast while we're drying up. Yeah, we're just drying up. Yeah, and there's flooding in Mississippi. All we need is canals to move that water forward. Yeah, and the flooding would include a whole bunch of transportation and fun and excitement, all kinds of great things in life. Imagine the Mississippi and riding the Mississippi, all those wonderful Mark Twain thoughts. That's, it's part of our true nature in America is travel and using the canal systems to do it because it's slow and it's easy and you could park and you could either sleep on your boat or you can hang a tent right next to where you stopped and sleep there. Yeah, everything is in such a way, it takes us closer and closer to the second initiation. Yeah, to where we don't build in ways that don't flow with the flow of reality. Like China, they build cities that no one lives in. Yeah, and Arabia, they build islands and cities that no one moves to. There are no initiates there. The infrastructure is crazy. Yeah. So get out, go do some boating. Why not? Okay, so, I want to show you too, this is a quick thing. This is how much they paid. They paid $7 million to do the infrastructure of building this, to put all those canals in. That brought us America. We got Philadelphia, we got all these cities, we got everything. We got New York, New Jersey, everything that was built, all the things in industry that was created, the making of the railroads, the ability to send materials back and forth, to build, to make metal into steel, and everything was required by the canals, working within a small group in this area. They all worked together and facilitated together. So that was like the new group of world servers pushing humanity that came off the boat, moving them as immigrants to this is how we need to do it. And this started back in 1700s. And I remember I taught you before that there was separation in the United States. We had the South, the North, we had the Civil War, and no one was friends, right? That was a problem. No friends, right? Everybody was against everybody. And everybody thought everybody was against them. Yeah. So it was really not a very good place to be hanging out. Yeah. So if you were up in the East Coast, the people down below had their own states. We didn't have a United States. We had territories. And they were separate in territories. And they wanted to separate themselves so that people in the United States would be from separate territories, not the United States. We wouldn't include California. We wouldn't include all these different places. We'd only include certain places. And even after the Civil War, there's many who said, no, we have to separate still in half. And we don't want that territory. We're not going to do this. We're going to keep this like that. And, even here in California, there are idiots that want to separate California from the United States or from California and call it Jefferson, the state of Jefferson. And they want to do the same thing in other places like Idaho and Montana. They want to separate another section in order to create more separation. It's just, the lower side of things. And you always see that there's a lot of people vote for Trump around that area. So a lot of it is people's lower minds. And they're carrying over from the history that we had in the past. Yeah. And all of that is because we don't want to pay we don't believe that black people and immigrants are equal. Yeah. And we want to keep our land and our territory our own. And we want to pay our taxes and not have to pay for the other people's taxes in another state. Yeah. So we don't want to rub elbows. We don't want anything to do with it. Yeah. And then we want to create a territorial separation, territorial divide. Yeah. And that's what created the Civil War. We could not gain our human rights. And it's by this, after all that happened, this was brought together. The end of the Civil War, in 1876 and then 1882, in comes, okay, a philanthropist and a few other people of industry said, okay, let's put together $2 million and we'll start it off, yeah? And it ended up costing $7 million, and they got all of the Erie Canal was created. And then from that, other canals started getting branched off, and they started building this whole entire infrastructure. And if it wasn't for that, we would not have anything we have today. The economy of America would never manifested. It would have been a very slow, drudgerous, constant warlike scenario of us fighting over money, fighting over ownership, fighting over land, fighting over things because we didn't have an infrastructure for us to sell our things, to build our things, to make our things, to continue our evolution into technology, advancements. We needed that. And our first technology was the canal, and the canal comes way back. So those are things, that is the same thing as us wanting the right to get in a van and travel or be in a monastery and do work that is spiritual. That's a third degree quality, Very few people can last longer than 5, 10, 15 years in that influence if they're only first degree. But they're perfectly satisfied to go back into society and work with the first degree humanity who has to find housing.